Well, I'm about 800 subscribers away from being able to have my own URL on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe to, and what is it here? Capital UC5, capital PHJ6, capital L, lowercase w, 0 dash 0, capital Q, M, capital G, QZ, capital D, capital V, 94, capital FWA. There you go. There's your convention endorsement right there. Yeah, that really sucks. How can I get more subs? I could create compelling original content, or I could make derivative content, where I start an artificial fight between me and another YouTube person who's never heard of me, because that's the only motivation I could have for doing this, right? It's not that I truly care about this issue, it must be for the internet points, right? This week, popular artist received heavy scrutiny from the Twitter mob. I don't want to put their art in my video, so I'm going to use this picture of a wet dog with a censor bar over its eyes. A screenshot emerged showing a conversation between them and a commissioner going over details for a future art piece, assumedly one of a pornographic nature. As an example for one of the characters' body types, photos of real children were used. These images were not pornographic in nature. Wasn't caught sending around literal child pornography, or CP as I've been calling it. Like the full phrase kind of skeeves me out to say in the first place. This prompted me to tweet this. And I know a lot of you are thinking what I was thinking. Well, of course CP is bad. Well, of course analogs to CP are also bad since they serve the same purpose. What a brave stance you're taking, Pep. What's next? Are you gonna come out and say war is bad, that drunk driving is bad, that presents are nice? But no. The only reason I'm talking about this is because of the responses and the videos and the blog posts defending this kind of art. It also happens that Cotharix's video hits on a lot of the points I want to make, so I'm structuring this like a response video, even though his original video is really more about than about the greater issue, in my opinion, greater issue at hand here. I don't think Cothorix is evil. I don't think you should go to his comment section and say terrible things to him or his viewer base. He seems rational and deserving of decency. He might have some valuable opinions. Oh, look, he knows Majira.
Over the last few days, the popular furry artist, also known as has had a mountain of accusations thrown his way.
Oh, look, there's a cute dragon in this video and everything.
One of mine is Vor.
Never mind. So let's work through this. I'm going to try really hard not to misrepresent Cothorix here. Like, if you think I'm being dishonest, I have the full video down below. You should definitely watch it, see his full context for yourself, and if you think I'm being unfair, please let me know. Here we go! He starts out talking about the recent based drama. I'm kind of skipping over this because isn't the foundation of my argument here. Like, it's more about the genre in general than particularly. This isn't a hit piece.
If you've been part of the furry community for any length of time, it shouldn't surprise you that most of these accusations are coming from the Twitter hate mob that seems to immediately form whenever anyone in the community does anything.
Can you tell he treats this like a very serious and real issue that actually matters and affects people?
Other furries have stated they are disassociating themselves from and some have gone as far as to say he should be jailed or even killed.
Stop doing this. Everybody says this already, but I don't think it can be repeated enough. Stop sending death threats to people. Don't tell people to kill themselves on the internet. It's pointless, and it's just a really messed up thing to tell somebody on the internet. Let's get to the part of the video I do care about. Let's see what Cothorix thinks. And I've got to learn how to pronounce that name.
This sort of pornographic art and conversation of young furry characters, also colloquially known as cub art, is looked down on by the majority of the furry community. Some people would even go as far as to say that liking this sort of art makes you a pedophile, with the implication that you would molest actual kids if given the chance. I have to disagree with that. I would say that fantasy and drawings and roleplay shouldn't be confused with real-life intentions. I don't feel it's fair to call them the same thing.
This is where we get into the gray area that has me on this topic in the first place. Does the media you consume affect your worldview? I'm sure none of you would agree with me if I said that violent video games make people do violence. And I do not think that everyone who has ever viewed cub porn is going to go out and abuse a child. But when you make this kind of art, you are making the job of predators much easier. Furry artists kind of have cute on lockdown, the kind of art that naturally appeals to children, and it's not a big leap to think that this kind of art could be used to normalize the idea of sexual behavior between adults and children to a potential victim. This is a problem specifically because this art involves children. If this was almost anything else, I could see that argument that this is a harmless or victimless thing to do. So let's get into that.
I don't feel it's fair to call them the same thing. After all, we all have our own kinks, some of which are plenty bizarre and fantastical, but we would never try to enact them in real life. For example, one of mine is vor, basically eating other furry characters. It comes with being a dragon. Obviously, I'm not going to try to eat anyone in real life. I'd find it incredibly silly if people were accusing me of being a murderer or cannibal because I like a certain kind of drawn art on the internet.
I see this argument the most often. Well, what about this kind of art or this kind of art? If you think this is bad, then you must think all these other things are bad too, right? Obviously, my biggest concern is this bleeding over into the real world. No, an art piece doesn't directly hurt someone. The existence of art doesn't hurt people. I do believe it can cause indirect harm, specifically because it involves the very young. Let's use all these other potentially objectionable fantasies as example. If it involves adults, bleeds over into real life, and some adults want to do stuff to each other, is that the same as when these fantasies involve children? Adults can share a mutual sexual interest, do stuff to each other with consent, and nobody's hurt. This is possible. Young children can't consent to sexual acts. That's the whole basis behind statutory rape laws, legal age of consent, and etc. So most people would agree that any sex act done to a young child by an adult, by its very nature, cannot be consensual. So, when any of these fantasies that involve children bleed over into real life, harm is done. I do not see these as fair comparisons. No, liking vor does not lead to actually eating people, but any kind of like slobbery fantasy thing that you want to do to get kind of close to like the idea of eating people, but not actually eat, like it's adults, so it's okay. You can kind of mess around with that with your adult consenting friends and acquaintances, strangers on the street. And pretty much everybody's gonna be okay at the end of the day. No one's gonna be scarred for life. You agreed to the thing, you knew what you were doing, be responsible. You can do stuff like that. It's an idea that you can mess with and experiment with in real life with consenting adults with few or zero negative consequences. Consenting adults simulate violence. It's fine, they're consenting adults. Consenting adults simulate rape. It's fine, they're consenting adults. Consenting adults simulate, I don't know, like one of them's a giant, the other one wants to smush him. It's fine, consenting, you get what I'm saying here. Consuming media does not always or even usually lead to real life actions, but sometimes it does. And it's a whole lot less terrible if the things you're doing in real life do not involve young children. This is all on a case-by-case basis since art is so subjective, but no, I don't believe all art is worthy of praise and recognition. I'm not advocating legal action against these artists, but I am advocating boycotting said artists. I don't think they should get money on Patreon, commissions from you or me, retweets, promotions, whatever. Even if they're really, really popular. They should be encouraged through social pressure to change their behavior and stop drawing this stuff. It makes the fandom look like a bunch of psychopaths that can't tell the difference between what is and isn't acceptable to simulate an art and then laud as quality. Furries. Yeah, there's a lot of weird porn, but at least they don't spend a lot of time and energy thinking about and fantasizing about abusing children. Oh, wait! Sorry, I'm getting riled up here. Let's have a drink of refreshing Pepsi. There you go, Katoya. That one was for you.
I think that most people are capable of separating fantasy from reality. Just because an artist draws pornography of a certain thing doesn't mean they're going to act on those things in real life. If no one is being hurt and it isn't illegal, I don't see a problem with it.
I don't like to make the legal equals moral argument very often because there's a lot of things that I find morally reprehensible that are completely legal, and there are a lot of things that I think are morally fine that are still illegal. Like gay marriage just got legalized like last Thursday, and it's not even legal everywhere. Like I'm talking, looking at you, Italy, and Alabama, kinda. Cub porn doesn't have much legal precedent behind it yet, but it's not totally clear whether it could ever be ruled as child porn or not. Here's what I got from the Department of Justice website. The key phrase that could apply here is computer-generated image and appear to depict. So whoever eventually goes to court over this had better hope that that's just my OC, it's not a real person holds up in court. Some of you won't care about the think of the children arguments I'm making here, I guess. So let's take it from another angle. As a fandom, we should discourage this kind of art for the sake of self-preservation. If the fandom develops a reputation as a place where borderline child pornography is seen as acceptable, it's gonna be a lot harder to book your fur meets. Or as the manager of some bowling alley sees you, the meeting of the pedophile ring. Back to Dragon Friend. He talks a lot more about this specific bout of stuff with Zouch, and makes this point about the real photos of children being used for references for cub porn.
These are images readily available on Google. If you're going to blame anyone, blame the parents for selling out their kids. Blame the photographers for making a living off of taking pictures of suggestively posed, nearly nude children. Blame the magazines for buying these pictures and posting them all over the internet. I have to be honest, I don't like the idea of using kids as references for furry porn. It just doesn't sit right with me.
I completely agree with all of this, Coyote. Do you see how the closer these images get to CP, the more uncomfortable it makes you? It's not technically porn, but ugh. Sure feels dirty and friggin' weird. The images are unblurred in the original video, but I would be a hypocrite if I claimed that certain images were exploitative and then showed said images unblurred in my YouTube videos. Come on, Kothorix, get with it!
But I don't want my emotions to get in the way of my logical thought process and good judgment.
But that'd be fine if you did. I'm all for being logical and rational and facts and things, but sometimes when something feels wrong, it's because it's wrong. Then comes this gem of an argument.
If you think about it, furry artists use pictures of animals as references for furry porn all the time. Are those animals being exploited? Do we consider that to be the same thing as bestiality?
If you think about it for more than 5 seconds, this argument doesn't make as much sense as it seems to. I see a far bigger leap in logic between a literal coyote and a coyote that is shaped like a person, talks like a person, has human level of intelligence, and so on, and a dog person baby with human baby intelligence and such, and a literal human baby. Like, one is a fantasy creature that, no matter how many wishes I make upon the Dragon Balls, will never exist, and the other is basically a palette swap. Also, this is gonna sound mean and very un-PC of me, but one's a dog, one's a human child. Animal abuse is terrible and needs to be stopped just like child abuse, but if I had to pick a priority, it's child abuse.
I've said it a few times now, I think we need to be less concerned about what it is other people are jerking off to. What we should focus on is if anyone is being hurt. If someone is doing something illegal or harmful, that's when we should be trying to put a stop to it. That's when we should be calling the authorities.
I like to think that the best time to stop a child abuser is before they abuse anyone. If you have the point of view that pedophiles are persecuted, demonized, and discouraged from finding help for their affliction, I can kind of see where you're coming from. But you don't give a drug addict more drugs and hope that one day they magically stop wanting to take drugs anymore. This is a side argument I got from the video's comment section. The idea that viewing more child porn somehow keeps rapists from raping feels victim-blamey to me. It kind of sounds like, well, if there weren't so many hot kids around, these people would be able to control themselves. Work on the problem if you see it as a problem. You don't give pyromaniacs matches. You don't give someone with OCD a jig puzzle with a missing piece. It doesn't help. You get therapy, you get a support network, you get friends who will help you stop wanting to brutalize children. You don't help by viewing simulations of a thing you supposedly want to stop wanting to do to a child. If you see it as wrong, work towards ending the behavior patterns. If you see a problem, stop doing the thing that is the problem.
You never know, you might be the next person accused of something terrible, something that isn't true in the slightest. How do you want people to treat you?
This is some so much for the tolerant left, fear-based, keep the status quo nonsense. Having some things be socially unacceptable does not mean that the PC police have ruined the party. The mob he describes isn't going to destroy your life one day on a whim, and I think that can be evidenced by the fact that the person most of this video about is doing fine. They have a bunch of people on Patreon, their work gets tens of thousands of views, and they remain one of the most popular artists in the fandom. And this isn't the first time we've been talking about this thing with this particular person that I'm going to censor out the name of, so I'm not going to say again so it gives me less editing work to do later. They kind of have this issue about once every few years. It just kind of comes around like a weird leap year situation. Their books still sell well. They still get people to publish their stuff. No websites are removing their content. This mob I keep hearing about is like the most ineffective mob ever.
Before I go, I want to thank for making this so easy for me. He's opened his DMs and is taking questions from anyone who wants to ask him about the situation. He's also stated that he understands how blurry the line can get with these kinds of things, and he isn't proud of that particular conversation.
Well, that's great. What a great guy. And you know, all you gotta do to make me think that you really aren't proud of blurring these lines is stop blurring them in your artwork.
Anyway, I'm Coyote, and you have a wonderful day.
That's how you say it. God, man, I really should have watched this video before writing this script. Okay, who gets the special thanks this week? Glaçon, Petrov Neutrino, Musical Husky, Bryant Holmes, Blue Gray Fox, Grace Jane Gollinger, Wheelie, Pone E, Silvergatomon, Elizabeth Melanson, Jacob Stellato, Ruth, Renyina, Webster Leone, Ralts Clamar, Silverwolf, 1122, Dusty Monteo, Bubbles Fennec, Ty Husky, Nyox, Fox Amore, Brexton, Ethan Long, Ricardo Hompus, Sully, Matthew B, Cypher Diaz, Dead Peacat, Brendan McFancyfuck, Hanon, Finnish Analytical Marxist, Fur, Juan Galicia. Alright, welcome back to your favorite long-running segment, Comment Corner. Where's mailbag? What? I'm reading your comments. Alright, my last video was called, like, What Am I Doing Wrong? Where I detailed how things usually go for me when I try to talk to people on Twitter. And I was asking for your help in possibly being more easily approachable when I jump into people who I don't know's arguments. Comment number 1. This is by Ardrix. He suggests that maybe I could take a little bit more time establishing that I'm looking for clarification and not trying to just be an arguing Alan. Ugh. And I'm kind of starting to do that. Like, I'll put a full 2 lines of, the following is not meant to upset you. I just want to talk without being glib or sarcastic. I'm trying to be as genuine as possible. And it seems to work usually. Or at the worst, I just get ignored, which is fine. I'd rather be ignored than screamed at, I guess. That's put it really heavily. I'd rather be ignored than typed at in a way that I wish I wasn't being typed at. Our next comment is from FAO or FAO. I don't know. I've known them for like a year. I still don't know how to say their name. I don't know how to say any of you guys' name. If you aren't wearing a picture of your Twitter icon, I don't even know who you people are. I don't know who I am. I have to look in there every day and hold up a picture of my own Twitter icon next to my face to be like, oh yeah, that's still me. FAO says I shouldn't give away my political leanings, and he gives a pretty good explanation of a better way you could go about it. And yeah, I just feel sneaky doing that. Like, I'm fine. It's fine. I try to skip steps and like summarize what should be done in like 5 or 6 tweets and forming an exchange and just try to throw it all out there in one because I'm busy and I just want the answer. I want to get what I want to get. Give me the information. But you know, my patience, I'm sure, would be rewarded. This is from Fox Cario. I'm only talking about the. This is from Fox Cario, and he asks about why I'm like switching between an image of me and then my actual self. It's kind of to cover up that I don't want to memorize a whole script so I can make eye contact with the camera, and I also don't want to talk like this because it doesn't. It's not as good. It's not as engaging. It looks like I'm just like reading you my book report, and I don't like that. So I try to switch between parts where you don't really need visual information. My face isn't telling you anything. I'm just listing my points. And it's kind of a way for me to hide behind a piece of artwork. Oh yeah, new artwork today. This is the person that did it. Please go buy their stuff. Go look at their thing. They sell mouse pads and like prints and various accessories with their art on it. This is their thing. You should go to their website now and look at the stuff. Last comment for today. This is from Allie, because I've been calling her a bunch of weird things. She kind of hits on the same points that Fao was talking about. I tend to skip over a lot of my context when I'm making comments, as other people have pointed out to me. I'll just throw out my opinion with a bunch of loaded stuff in it, which I could see as off-putting to people who don't know who I am. They don't know if I'm coming at them looking for trouble or if I'm just trying to actually talk about things. If you want to be in the next comment corner, be sure to go down to the comments here where, I'm scared that we're putting our phone on silent for a little bit after posting this one. Or, even worse, would be if no one comes to get mad at me without watching my video and doesn't leave all the like, your video is wrong, downvote without watching it. If I don't get that, I feel like I've been cheated. Sorry, I'm getting riled up here. Let's have a drink of refreshing Pepsi. There you go, Cothrix. That was for you. Ooh, got a little bit of that on there. Let's just add a nice little. Oh, I should use my already wet hand. Just stick a little bit of. Bing. There it is. That'll annoy everybody.